Anansi, hey, how's it going?
I'm doing well. How are you guys doing?
Pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good.
All
Yeah.
good, yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to tell chat who you are, what you do, like, yeah, your credentials, I guess.
Mhm.
Yeah, my name is Anansi, obviously. I how do I sum this up? I've been on the ground at a lot of protests. I have a lot of experience having been at protests and stuff, like having been just involved in a lot of very uh, exciting, I guess is the way you could describe it, kind of situations.
Hmm.
Having a just been through a lot, I have a lot of experience doing that. I also run the channel, which is library where I talk about books and just sorry, I'm bad at summing myself up.
Well, if it's okay for me to talk about some of the like nasty shit that you've experienced, is that okay?
Yeah,
Yeah, like I know that you've been like shot with rubber bullets multiple times, right?
I haven't been shot with rubber bullets. I've been shot with pepper bullets, and
Oh, pepper bullets, yeah,
I've been
shit.
like hit. They shoot those like canisters that have material gas. I've like been hit directly with those as well. I think over all in all, I've been shot like 15 times. I was once shot directly in the face.
Jesus Christ.
Wow,
On
okay.
top of just having been like beat. I've
Can we
been
get
through a
some
lot.
ACABs in chat real quick? Just a
Yeah.
few little 1-3-1-2s.
That would be
That's
very
fucked.
therapeutic. But yeah, yeah, just basically if you can think of it, I've probably experienced it or almost experienced it at least once.
Hmm.
Jesus.
Wow, okay.
And as a quick aside, I want to make a note of saying that, like, when we talk, this is just a personal pet peeve, but naming them rubber bullets, I think doesn't really
Oh yeah,
do
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
much service
100%.
to what they are. They're 40 millimeter baton rounds coated in rubber.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
And
That's
rubber bullets makes
definitely
it sound like it's like a
their
Nerf
propaganda
gun.
name.
Oh,
Yeah.
totally, yeah. And even by design, they're advised to be used by shooting at the ground for them to bounce up and lose a lot of
Yeah, yeah.
momentum, and a
Yeah,
lot of
you're
cops
you're
just
not
open
supposed to
fire
shoot
into a
people
Or
crowd.
shoot in
directly
your
with those at
face,
all.
yeah.
Yeah,
So,
totally.
yeah, the rubber bullets conjures up something that's harmless as paintballs. Yeah, and it's not. And I think that that's just another example of just, propaganda, just constantly trying to make it seem like they're just here just to kindly just guide this ruckus group of hooligans to just, please, we're here to de-escalate, when in actuality they're the complete opposite of that.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
Yeah.
get like
sorry, you go.
I'm sorry.
No, please go ahead.
Oh, I was
Um,
just gonna say, the whole thing with the rubber bullets is that like these weren't engineered as a like a soft thing to deter protests. It's basically like they were like, this is a real bullet, and then we need to work back to the point that we are legally allowed to shoot these at people. So it's like just adding like like doing the little things or whatever, so they could make like a less lethal round or whatever. It's not like there was no like there was no altruistic purpose with like, we're creating these so they're safe or anything like that. They're like, what is the most lethal thing we are legally allowed to just shoot at people and not, like just murder them or whatever. So yeah, I think that's a really important thing to keep in mind. Like there's not like these are very close to just being straight up bullets.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like I'm sorry, did I interrupt
No,
someone?
please go ahead. I was going to ask you a question, but I would love for you to. No, go ahead, please.
Yeah, just like the way people talk about it is often very dismissive. Like, oh, the cops just like shot rubber bullets at a bunch of protesters, and like what gets forgotten is that getting hit with one of these things means like a months long healing process. Like sometimes years. Like some people will never recover from like
Right,
getting hit with
exactly.
these.
Yeah,
Sometimes they're like permanently blinded or permanently
yeah,
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 something.
yeah.
like permanently
Permanent
disabled,
brain damage. Yeah.
and like the psychological trauma as on top of that, like that compounds as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
100%. Yeah,
absolutely.
it's gonna scare people from actually, getting involved in protests, like, which is the idea. That's why they
Yeah,
do it,
that's
right?
that's exactly the point. It's that like typical like U.S. military doctrine of like you respond to any kind of threat with overwhelming force, like as much as is possible
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
to stop whatever's going on, like damn the consequences.
Mm-hmm.
They're not worried about how bad they're going to hurt these people that they're shooting at in the future. They just care about stopping what they're doing right now by any means
Yeah.
necessary.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mentioned it a little in the video that we watched earlier, and I've seen some other people talking about it in the chat where it's like they will employ these things. They'll kill you. They'll do other stuff that is like, like illegal. But for them, it's better to do things that are, you know, that are illegal, that'll fuck people up, that they'll pay for in court down the line, and then kind of like destroy the movement, the protest as it's happening. It's better for them to deal with it down the line, pay the money, whatever, like that. And it's never very much, you know, like they, you know, pay victims and all this kind of stuff. It's better for them to do that and to destroy the kind of, you know, whatever the disruption is, than to actually, you know, like you're not going to see a cop like sitting on the front lines like thinking like, oh man, should I you know, should I like wound,
Yeah,
like permanently
no.
injure this person, whatever like that? Like they, you know, it's way easier for them just to be like, okay, the police union will sort it out down the track, you know, like,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Yeah, and
Holstering
their
your
first
assault rifle so that you can like make a little pros and cons list of firing into the crowd.
yeah, and like their first method of like dealing with anyone who tries to sue them for like stuff they've done, just to deny it. Just no, didn't happen, or you don't have enough evidence to prove it happened. So when
It's
like
gaslighting.
it's almost
gaslight all the time. It's just, we were talking
yeah,
about
it's
this
like
earlier.
it's almost better for your mental health to not even bother reporting, because they're just going to re-traumatize you through the process of
Mm-hmm.
trying to get things done. They're going to like intentionally intimidate you. They're going to like follow you home and stuff like that. Like they're going to really
Yeah.
employ like terror on people and then just like not talk about it.
Yeah. And there are, I mean, there's plenty of people from different protest movements that have like, you know, just disappeared. So, you know, like that's the
Oh
thing.
yeah, no. Like right after the uprising in 2020 started, there was like a whole bunch of lynchings that just all of a sudden happened. Like that same, like within days of the
Yeah,
uprising
absolutely.
starting, there were lynchings going on, and then it went on like, months after, and it wasn't really talked about. And then, like there was also
I remember
like
that.
overt, just like police assassinating activists. Like I believe it was his name was Winston Duke. They surrounded him on like top
Yeah.
of a parking garage while he was on a date with someone, and then like, shot him while he was in his car.
Is that the one that
They
Trump was
they literally
bragging about? Where he was like,
no, that was a
was a different one?
person.
Sorry, my bad.
Yeah,
Like of all of
no,
the
Trump was back. Winston Duke died. Was killed I think last year.
Ugh.
Yeah, they literally like pulled a Fred Hampton kind of assassination on him. They just pulled up and surrounded him and just shot him.
And it's like, yeah, like, and because of, yeah, I mean, like the way that, you know, like a lot of these, because of the way that police unions kind of work, and, you know, it's get it clear, like police unions aren't unions in the same way that, you know, like a working,
They're not unions, period.
like,
They're gangs. They're just, they're mobs.
They're not. Yeah. They, yeah, the way that they all cover for each other, they, you know, like they have endless fun. Like, you know, police unions get so much money from, you know, like different local government and everything like that. And they use this money to protect themselves, to, you know, like for legal fees, all these things like that. And it's like, if you take them to court, you've got to pay for all that stuff yourself or whatever. You know, if you try and bring a case against the cops, you've got like basically like the entire policing institution against you. So yeah, that's like what Anansi was saying, like a lot of the time people just, you know, you gotta go to court, you gotta pay all this stuff, you gotta relive all this trauma and everything like that. A lot of people just don't do it because they're like, I would rather just get on with my life and deal with it than have to go through the whole circus, you know.
Mm-hmm. It's freakishly similar to say like women that are sexually, or people that are sexually assaulted, but primarily like especially women, where like being sexually assaulted, then having to go through the act of like having to like press charges, I'm speaking from like personal experience, especially since it was the cops that convinced me to drop the charges against someone who raped me. Sorry, trigger warning. This whole episode is very trigger warning. I'm aware. Just apologies. But I just want to throw that one piece in there because cops are scum. They are not here to protect you, for the record. But like one of the things that got me like exhausted at the idea of pressing charges against this person was, besides the cops, you know, pressuring me not to, was the fact that I would have to fly into like another state over and over again, continually like I don't want to be re-traumatized, especially by a system that is most likely not going to care. And also it's just not going to. And this is, you don't have to have experienced that dramatic of an ordeal to understand that as a marginalized person, especially, it's really nice to be able to like, you know, stick it to them. But sometimes I think sometimes you just need to protect yourself and not just continually re-traumatize yourself to make some points. And where you draw the line, I think is a tricky one. You know, it's very personal, and I think it's tricky.
Yeah. What Lost Sue has mentioned in the chat as well. How a lot of the stuff is normal in native protests and standoffs. But yeah, there's I've heard of stories of, like after protests or whatever, of people, like cops just like, going and picking people up, picking up natives, and just like taking them into the middle of nowhere and dropping them off. I think someone actually maybe was talking about it last time in chat. There's a couple different names for it, but yeah, like literally just going and like dumping them somewhere, completely different or whatever, or like, all kinds of crazy stuff. Yeah, I think there's a name for it. But yeah, just like wild, like, it's like they just operate with complete impunity. Starlight tours. That's what someone's saying in the chat. Like, that's the
Right.
thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
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 It's extremely fucked up, and it's like, yeah, it's something that just happens. Like, this is shit that happens all of the time, But yeah. Oh,
So,
what's up,
Anansi, your class is in session, and you're here to school us all. So, like, why don't you dive into your incredible notes you've given us?
Okay, yeah, I kind of just like I didn't really have a plan. I just kind of like wrote everything I could think to write that I like felt
I
like people
I
would
know
be
there's a lot of
susceptible to
stuff.
know. Yeah, like there's like a lot of stuff that, like looking back on is like stuff I wish I had known, stuff like that. And you guys already gone over like one of the first things I want to talk about, which was talking about you know sorry, knowing your rights and like knowing how to talk to cops and stuff like that. Like obviously, shut the fuck up, already. Shut the fuck up. Don't say anything. One of my favorite chants to hear on the ground at a protest is the chant. If someone says, "What did you see?" and everyone responds, "I didn't see shit." No one, no one saw shit. But yeah, I think one of the first important things like going into a protest setting, I would say, is like having people that you're going with. Like, it's okay to go to protests alone, but it's a lot safer to go rather than go with people.
Absolutely.
You can all keep each other safe. On the ground, you can all kind of keep track of each other. Um, if anything comfortable happens, obviously, like you leave together. Um, the term everyone's probably familiar with affinity groups. Or you
Yeah.
your affinity group should be established. There are advantages to having a group and to going alone. Going as an individual means that you're quicker and you're like more quick to react to stimuli if something happens. You can leave faster if you're on your own. You can probably disappear through a crowd easier if you're on your own.
And
It's
you could
easier.
set like like a location, like if you get separated, we're all gonna meet back at, like this fountain, blah
Yeah,
blah blah blah. Like, and
exactly.
if like if we're not there by this time, then like something's happened to someone, which is really good, especially if you don't take a phone. Things like that can really
Yeah,
solve a lot of questions. Like you might be like, oh shit, where's Soph? We can't text her.
yeah.
Like, yeah,
That's also like knowing the environment you're going to be protesting in is also really important. So like knowing different landmarks and stuff can help you. Like you can tell someone, oh, we're all going to meet back here in case someone loses their phone,
yeah,
in case anything happens. But you also can quickly identify places where you can hide or potentially change your clothes for
yeah.
no reason at all. You know,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
just
yeah,
those
yeah.
different sorts of
Absolutely.
It's
those
good to
different
have an
sorts of
outfit
advantages.
change. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's always good.
Sometimes you
Exactly.
just want to be more stylish at the protest. You get there.
Sometimes you walk into a scene and you're already dripped out and you just need to drip even more, so you gotta change your
That's
clothes.
Yeah, yeah.
That's just how it
Well,
is. It's three
sometimes you
levels
need
of
to
drip.
just sometimes one of your friends shows up with an outfit that you think it might be a good idea to swap clothes for a little bit. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, like that's
Exactly.
always helpful. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
I
Exactly.
mean,
Feeling
let's be
cool.
real about this for a second. We're all joking around, but it's like if you do something really embarrassing in front of someone really cool, and you just want them to not recognize you anymore.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
you want to change your clothes because
Boom, there
you
we
want
go.
then they won't recognize you anymore because you
Look,
changed
see,
your clothes.
You will
all
have
all you
escaped
have to do is roll your d20 and then tell me if you get a plus for your deception check.
Exactly.
Yeah, of course.
Right.
I'm just gonna duck out for a second and check on my cat and everything.
Cool.
All right.
Yeah.
Actually, you put some graphics in the notes, and I wonder if
Yes.
Nicole, you can get some of these up.
Just like you see what we're on about.
The noise gate cuts out things that
Is
are
that
not, that are slightly
is that
quiet.
better?
That's
Yeah.
it sounds better
Sounds good so
immediately,
far.
actually. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, good. I also like have been muting myself when I stop talking.
Oh yeah,
I don't know if that
you don't
Yeah,
need to do that for us. Don't worry, we're
Okay.
all
that's fine,
making weird noises.
Yeah, you're
All right.
fine.
Okay. Cool.
I'm like literally eating right now, so sorry about that. I'm really hungry.
So rude. Can't believe
No,
it.
it's cool.
I'm on
Bad
this like
at being
workout
not
grind, you
rude.
know. If you want to know
That's
about
true.
it, we can
Gotta
talk
get
about
those
it
gains
again.
in.
Yeah,
Mhm.
true.
Been doing it for 3 weeks. Not a big deal. Okay, so yeah.
So
By
yeah,
the way,
yeah.
so I want to make a
Oh, sorry,
note
go
of
on.
saying that we're talking right now. We were talking before about UK. Now we're talking
Yep.
about America, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Now we're talking about
So we need to
America.
orient
I
ourselves because we're
am
talking to
in
an
America.
international audience as well, and we're kind of talking about the laws and the specifics of different parts of the world. While there
Yeah.
are a lot of similarities across the board, there are going to be some specific changes, more nitpicky changes, you know, pertaining to, say, First Amendment rights. That's a thing in America, not anywhere else. Although there are
Yeah.
similar types of rights elsewhere.
Yeah. Like this, my whole perspective is like coming from America. So like my like perspective on cops and everything like that is coming from like maybe the cops in your area aren't as aggressive as they are here. Like, because I know like LAPD has a reputation worldwide for being like insanely corrupt and villainous. So like just they have a particular them and LAPD have like a particular like extreme aggression when it comes to protests.
Yeah.
So it's like that's kind of like where I'm coming from in my mentality. Some if stuff I say doesn't apply to you, that's perfectly okay. Like the situation is different.
Yeah, it's
This
important
just
to know
act
where
like
you're at.
it's useful. Sorry, I'm like rambling a little bit.
No, you're fine.
No,
it's
no,
good.
go for it. That's
Cool,
fine.
No,
That's
tell us
fine.
whatever you're here to tell us. Like that's the
Yeah.
point. That's literally the point. Like Tim stepped away, and he's like, I think of the four of us has the most to contribute back to you. Like, so
Yeah.
that's why we're a bit quiet right now.
Yeah.
You
Well-
know, that's okay.
Yeah. I wanted to
Yeah.
I don't know if it's
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. I don't know if this is, and hosts tell me if this is completely off, but we were talking earlier. This is less about tactics and more about the purpose of a protest, which I think is actually kind of related to tactics because like I was looking through your notes and you were describing in some detail some tactics like being like stealth and maneuvering and stuff. And I think that although it doesn't seem like it's specific to the conversation we're having about tactics, I think that ultimately, in order to frame tactics, we have to know like what is the point of what we're doing. And
that is absolutely true.
Yeah. So I don't know if you had any specific, if not, it's fine, but I don't know if you had any specific like personal, like when you protest, what are you trying to accomplish? I know it's you as an individual can't really accomplish much in a protest period because it's never about one person. But what are you trying to make happen?
It depends on the it depends on the protest because
Okay.
sometimes you're just trying to get public attention and public support
Okay.
and trying to raise awareness, and that's a fairly simple thing. You don't have to worry too much when you're like that's all you're really trying to do. But then sometimes people have the goal of like marching to a specific location. Sometimes people just have like a specific goal, like a specific thing they're trying to accomplish with whatever it may be, and that depending on what you're trying to do, the spiciness level of it is in Minecraft, obviously. That changes how you need to approach the situation. And sometimes even when you're at like something that's supposed to be a little more calm, like you're just trying to raise awareness and stuff, it ends up turning into a violent situation.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
There's like a general level of awareness that's always useful because there's always that chance that a regular normal protest can turn into like a running street battle with cops out of nowhere. Not that anyone would ever do that.
Yeah, no, we're never wanting that to go down, and I honestly believe that. Like, I think that people shouldn't go in. I mean, I don't know. I personally am not. I hope this is not like a lib take, but I have like a personal issue with the like warrior mentality of like.
Oh yeah, the Rambo.
Yeah, the Rambo. Yeah. Like they're. I don't know. I think that it can be a very like self-serving thing, and
Mhm.
I don't
Yeah.
know. I was part of the. I'm not nearly as experienced as you, but I was part of the Seattle BLM protests and like the creation of the Chaz. And I remember there was a few people that were kind of centering it around themselves and like, you know, how much that they would do. I don't know. It felt like I don't know how to judge the situation. I'm still very aware that I don't know much about anything about this because I have a very little experience still at the end of the day. But it was like, I'm like the person who's there to try to like make center themselves and have their Rambo moment, like you were saying, Tim.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of a peeve of mine.
Yeah, and I've seen that, like, I've seen that a bunch of times where people, like, they want to get someone taking, especially these days with, like, the whole kind of, like, these, like, Instagram kind of, like, activist types where it's, like, they don't actually, like, they don't really care too much about what's actually happening, but they want to get, like, a photo of, like, them at, like, one of these events or whatever, and you get, like, people like that's a surefire way to get yourself in trouble. Like that's incriminating yourself or whatever. There's reasons why like the guy that punched Richard Spencer has never like he's never been arrested or anything like that because he never bragged about it and he was like and he kept his shit low
Never
key.
did like
And it's the same
interviews
as,
about
like,
it. Or any of that.
Yeah.
yeah, like in the
Yeah.
Hong Kong protests, there was that dude that did like the fucking running, jumping kick and like, kicked a cop in the head. He has never been identified, well, they have never been identified, I should say, but all the others around in that situation, the people that weren't wearing masks and stuff, like the guy that tried to take the cop's gun afterwards, all of those people have faced charges. The guy that did the head kick never faced charges because he didn't brag about it. He never told everyone I was the head kick guy. He didn't do shit.
Yeah.
He just,
One of the first rules of security culture is like you don't post about anything like you do about it. Like even when you talk about you have to be very careful about how you talk about stuff online.
Yeah.
You know, it's why like one of the safest things to do is just like not say anything you did, just talk about stuff police have done because they do all sorts of illegal stuff that people want to hear about already. And then just keep your mouth shut when it comes to certain things. If you have to ask yourself the question, is this safe to post online? The answer is no.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Straight away.
Which again, just to reiterate, on Red Planet, we sometimes discuss matters that involve people doing things which are illegal, and that's not. We're not endorsing that. We don't endorse any illegal activity here, of course. And we're talking in abstract about things that people do. It's our official position that increasing authoritarian policies of states and behaviors of police leave people with no other choice to do things. Doesn't mean we endorse them.
They create the situation that these things are bound to happen.
I love America.
Yeah.
For the record.
We all love
the
America.
free.
Yeah, it was our favorite place.
And that all goes back to that like sort of conversation of like, are people like trying to have their Rambo moment, or is a situation occurring where people will feel the need to protect themselves from state violence? Because a term that you don't hear often enough is the term cop riot, because cops do riot and they riot at protests. So like when people describe violence at protests, like, oh, like the cops like put down this protest. They don't describe it as like the cops like, no, they lost control, like got mad and just attacked a bunch of people.
Yeah.
And there's a difference. There's a difference between like defending yourself from illegal violence from someone who happens to be a cop, and doing something illegal, which we obviously don't recommend. But it's legal to defend yourself, and sometimes people will feel the need to take collective action to do that because of the way the cops are behaving, especially when like we said before, cops are a gang. We all know that. There's
100%.
there's 100% like documented proof of that. Like just here with LASD, there are like 18 active gangs within Los Angeles Sheriff's Department.
Totally.
Supremacist, neo-Nazi gang.
Someone in chat just reiterated something we'd already said on stream, but and do not ever take and post selfies. That's another thing. Like, even if you're at a protest that you think is like completely chill and is on, like we talked about the spectrum before, and you think it's on the way more chill end of the spectrum, just might be worthwhile. Like, even if you are taking pictures with, like, you take a picture of yourself with some friends, which don't do that, but like, if just in case you do, because you think it's a totally chill, fun time and nothing's gonna happen, maybe just wait until everyone's gone home before you post
Yeah,
that.
Yeah.
Just 'cause,
And,
like, you
even
never know
if
how
you're
it's
trying
gonna
to
go.
take photos of like things that cops are doing or whatever like that, if you've got a burner phone that you've brought or something like that,
Mhm.
always avoid getting photos that you might just take
Yeah.
someone's, like get someone's face, because they do definitely look on social media and they look through
Yeah.
photos and they go like, oh look, here's this person. Okay, cool. We can pin them as being
Many
there or whatever,
police-
you know.
Yeah,
Many-
we've
many
all. Sorry.
No,
Well,
please go
many
ahead.
police departments are already using like facial recognition software
Yeah,
to
yeah,
scan
absolutely.
through social media.
Yeah, and we've all seen that one picture of like the cops in Portland with that huge screen of just every live stream and like every Instagram post
Yeah.
that people are posting, just like looking through everything.
Yeah.
It's always good to like, one, wipe the metadata off pictures before you post them, for one.
Yeah.
And two, like if you're posting pictures from protests, like block out people's faces.
Yeah.
That's just like a regular common courtesy that everyone should practice.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Another thing as
I
well
think
is
it's important to remember the saying, like, cameras are cops.
Yeah, and
Cameras.
also identifiable things as well. So not just faces. If you've got identifiable tattoos, even like labels and brands on clothes. Like there's been a whole bunch of people that have been arrested like after the fact because of like people like cops or whatever will recognize the branding on items of clothing, like backpacks and things, you know, like it has like a little like a JanSport thing or whatever like that, or a little Nike tick or whatever. And then and then they later on they can be like, okay, cool, well, this person has that backpack and these shoes or whatever like that. This, we can line this up with this person that was at this event or whatever like that. And that actually happens. Like, you might have gone to this protest and you might think everything's all good, and then 2 weeks later you get a knock on the door and they go like, oh, are those your shoes down there by the door?
Yeah.
All this kind of shit,
Totally,
like it actually happens. And it's like, it seems like some, like wild, like, like dystopian future thing, but this is like literally things that are happening right now.
We live in a boring dystopia. That's all it is.
Yeah.
The banality of dystopia.
Yeah, I was just about to say that.
I already mentioned M, who's going to be on the show to talk about cult research, who I think is watching now because they just sent me a message. But I saw them tweeting the other day. So M, if I get these details wrong, there you go. I saw them tweeting the other day about a group who were giving the police some grief, and they'd started masking up with red bandanas and like as a little like identifier together, and it's like cute, guys, but like you're literally just marking out your group as like, as like firstly like people who they know have caused them trouble before, and secondly like it like way more recognizable, and then they're going to be looking at the guy with the red bandana, like Tim said, like what shoes is that guy wearing, like what other stuff, absolutely.
Yeah. And so like, I mean, like the intention of like the whole like black bloc thing, like dressing all in black and stuff, isn't like a lot of people think it's to be intimidating or anything like that, but it's I mean, and there is like the whole thing of like being seen together as like a mass movement, neural matching, blah blah blah. Like there's like the morale side of things, but like the main thing is that it's so you don't get made by the cops, right? And this like it's like the same thing like when like I'm gonna say individuals doing things outside of the law in general. You might get like all have like really like basic hairstyles, like really like common clothes, things like that. Like it doesn't necessarily mean to be all black, but if the cops pull a bunch of people aside and they go like, okay, it was the like the young guy with the shaved head and the the whatever, the blue jeans or whatever like that, it's it's like they're gonna be like, okay, well, we've got 10 of these right here or whatever. So the black bloc is like really accessible because everyone can get it or whatever. But I think also, Anansi, I think you put something in the notes as well about saying
I
that
did.
there's an
I did put
alternative to
something
this now,
in the
right?
notes like that. Yeah, like black bloc has its uses in specific situations with like specific intentions. Like you just mentioned, like that the statement of like everyone being together in a big like matching mass like that is a big thing. Like the anonymity of it and all of that kind of stuff. But the problem with black bloc is that it actually draws a lot more attention to you, because a mass of people all marching in black down the street, it is intimidating, and it does draw a bigger police presence that is more ready to get violent. So black bloc, it has its usefulness in that very limited situation. What's actually better a lot of the time, and even like a lot more of the time, is not doing black block, but doing what a lot of people call gray block. So you're not trying to dress like in all black and be like scary or anything like that. But you're dressing in the most generic way possible, to the point that you're kind of invisible. Like you to come up with a terrible metaphor for this. Like in the Assassin's Creed games, where like if you walking
Any
past a
gamers in the
bunch of
chat?
monks in the same color robes, you can like pull your hood up and then walk with
Yeah,
them, and
yeah, yeah,
you can
absolutely.
just kind of blend in with any group of people. Gray block gives you that ability because you can
Yeah.
be in the process. You can even like have your gear and stuff and like be like ready for anything. So
But
like, you can look normal and get that like stealth bonus.
But I want to be
Yeah,
So
Neo.
also the
I want to be
Okay,
Neo.
sorry,
yeah.
oh yeah.
Um,
So
Yeah, I
Claude's
mean,
gonna show up
you
in your
could be
black
Neo,
PVC.
or you could not get batoned in the head by
Yeah,
a
right,
cop
exactly.
before you get to the protest.
to expand on the gray block thing for 1 second, this comes from a concept in like surveillance culture called the gray man, which is basically
Exactly.
like, a lot of people think that this is to wear like shit from the Gap. It's not. It's not just like it's not just to wear like normie core.
Divorced dad.
It's like Anansi's example is great. Like
Bad block.
if there's a group of monks walking by, like Ezio can put up his hood and look like the monks, right? It's about who's around you. So a lot of people think that you can basically like dress in a particular style to look like the gray man. Like they think that
Yeah.
the gray man has a specific look, and actually, firstly, that look that a lot of people think that it looks exactly like a Fed. So
Yeah.
that's not good. But secondly, no, it's not any specific look. It's the exact look of like how most people would look.
Exactly.
So if
Like
going to,
you're not trying to be like, I'm sorry.
no, go ahead.
Yeah, like you're not trying to be like invisible, like you like something. Your goal is to be someone that like no one would pay attention to.
Yes.
Like
Yeah,
people
yeah,
would like
absolutely.
notice you and then move on immediately and not like register. Like the way like when you're walking around and you see like someone in a basic fuckboy outfit, you just kind of notice them and your eyes glaze over and then you continue because like you clock the stereotype and then move on.
Exactly.
And
yeah.
like, there's also a thing about how you walk as well and your gait as well, right?
Oh, people do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
they are
yes.
using like as well as facial recognition stuff. Gait recognition is a developing software. But I just wanted to say, like, I, for example, have pink hair, dress very colorfully. If I was going to like a trans rights student protest, I would be gray man by default. But if I was going to like an anti-vax protest where it's a bunch of like a lot of them are like young white guys with very like crew cuts, and a lot of them are like roadmen and shit like this,
Yeah.
I would stand out like a sore thumb, right? So
Yeah.
Hmm.
The other thing as well is that what you bring with you to a protest or an action can also be used to incriminate you. Like if you're just walking through town and you're on your way to a place and you're wearing full black block and everything like that, the cops can be like,
You're
well,
getting
okay,
arrested.
yeah, and they'll be like, well, you have an intention to do
Yeah.
something, dodgy or whatever like that. So and that's the same with like bringing, like some people show up with like shields and things like that. And that's the other thing, right? Like if you are showing up to, you got to be really careful about where you show up to with things like that, because they're like, okay, well, were you looking at getting in a fight? Were you going there to get in a fight? And there's totally, times when it may be warranted to do that, but you just have to be really careful about kind of like picking your battles with things like that.
yeah,
A great rule.
If it's a situation where they're already, like if the cops are already deploying things like tear gas and all that kind of stuff, you can say that you were justified in doing so. But if you're showing up at like, hour one of the protest and you've got your like like you've got your combat
fucking-
gear or whatever like that,
your
then-
butterfly knife and your hand grenade.
Anti-life
Yeah.
super soldier.
yeah, you're kind of making yourself a target very preemptively. Not saying that
Yeah.
like, I mean, it depends on the situation, right? Like some protests are always going to kick off and it's always going to be that kind of vibe,
Mhm.
but you just have to like exercise some kind of like some kind of self-awareness about what is appropriate to when you should go Antifa super soldier, and when and when it's not a good idea to start beheading local businessmen.
Yeah, a great rule
It's
to
just only
always
white
follow.
businessmen, only white ones.
A great rule to always follow is to like not bring anything that you're not able to and willing to ditch in a second.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just drop. You're like it was I was not there this day, but I was watching live streams of what happened. Day 2 of the We Spot protests in Los Angeles. A bunch of people got arrested, and when everyone got arrested, everyone just immediately started dropping their tasers and pepper spray and all the like different personal
Yeah,
like little
yeah.
self-defense items. They just all just like dropped it and abandoned it.
Yeah.
As soon as they get surrounded, they're like, oh well, ditching this now. Just you have to,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you have to
There's
you have to
and
mentality.
yeah, you can you also like there are things you can do or wear to protect yourself that you could, like argue yourself out of in case, if you had to or whatever. Like like
Soup for my
if it's
family.
something that you can yeah, exactly. Like things like that, or like things where you say like, well, I know I just had this in my car, like whatever, or like one that I've heard about which is super effective is because a lot of people talk about like what can I wear? Like, do I wear like a leather jacket so that if I get hit, then I'm fine or whatever like that? I think something like a leather jacket is fine because you probably wear it anyway. If you show up with actual kind of like, like combat gear, that's probably going to make you a target. But, there's other
Exactly,
things that's
yeah.
in between things like, like motocross gear, which is like super padded. Sometimes there's like metal pads inside, everything like that. But you can just be like, oh, I was on my way out to the track and to meet my friends. I mean, that's assuming that there is like a local track or something like that. There's like shit like that where it's like you can't, you don't want to just show up in a, like that guy that shows, he's like a right wing dude that shows up in like a Spartan outfit or something like that, or like,
Oh, right.
Yeah.
just shit like that.
I mean,
It's like
That typical Proud Boy outfit of like a whole like flak jacket and
yeah,
military gear and just like trying to look as paramilitary as possible.
yeah. It's like, oh, we came
Improvisation
here.
is always your best friend.
Yeah, like they came here to, be peaceful or whatever, but they like came in like a combat bus from like 2 states away with like weapons and like, body armor. It's like, what are you doing? Like,
Yeah, if you want to talk about a real world example we could draw from, the concept of like, I love this the soup for my family.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I will
I
say
love
really
the wink
quickly.
he does. So
Mhm.
so good.
I love this guy, but also this is not smart to do an interview where you're talking, where you're wink
put your
wink.
face on it.
Like this
Yeah.
could get you killed very easily. Like the
It's
cops
a
will
great way
target
to
you
be-
and like, but
Yeah.
also it's done, so it's now that it's done, it's awesome. But it's also
It's a great way to be a meme. It's a terrible
Yeah.
way to
Yeah.
terrible for your safety.
Terrible way
Yeah.
to live.
Yeah.
But I wanted to say that if you want to draw from a real world example, like the Hong Kong protests is a really good example of mass unarmed resistance. So like this is a concept again. I'll shell it one more time for the stream. How to Blow Up a Pipeline by Andreas Malm. It talks about it like people using the things that are already in their environment, right? So like going to a place, and if shit really, really, really kicks off, right? You all saw in all the footage of Hong Kong from what is it, a couple of years ago now, right?
Yeah.
Like people were using traffic cones, people were using like water bottles, right? And this kind of stuff to deal with tear gas grenades and shit like this. Like you don't have to bring in, again, it's like if shit's already going wild or whatever. But if you're going to the start of something and it might kick off, like you don't have to be showing up with anything at all, because if things do kick off, like a lot of the time people improvise in really, really clever ways, again, to defend themselves. Why I brought up the Hong Kong protests is a good example, because like a lot of people came up with absolutely ingenious ways to like protect themselves from the shit that the police were doing.
And that's
I just want
also
to point out, I just googled it really quickly, and so the Soup for My Family guy has like fully been identified. There's like a news story here that like links directly to his Facebook page and everything like that, and it's kind of like,
Makes sense.
Yeah, you got
like,
fully
you know,
back.
like,
I would never want
it's
that
like, yeah,
attention. Like I'm
yeah.
Oh,
And
no.
it makes you a target as well, especially
Yeah.
like, so this, like he's like a young like black dude or whatever like that, and it's kind of like, okay, cool, every Proud Boy is gonna know who this dude is now.
and he's so
Right.
like smarmy about it, which is awesome, but also it's like come and get me kind of. It's like this attitude, like we were talking earlier about how like we hate cops, we all hate cops here, or at least you should all hate cops here. If not, you should hate cops. But
I hate
when they're
cops,
asking
so.
you questions and stuff, now's not the time to be like fuck you pig, because this whole fascists are just 99% ego, and like you're just, I don't want to say
you're not gonna do anything by being a hero. You're not gonna win any fucking awards.
it's just gonna
You're
put you
hurt
in fucking
yourself.
harm's way, in for what?
Yeah.
Anyways, so please go ahead. DJ Muel is gonna say something.
Oh boy, ADHD challenge.
right,
Oh
well,
man.
If you
Oh
can't,
god.
if you
Dude,
can't think of
Ronnie,
it, then I want to
same.
mention. If you can't think of it, think about it, because I
Oh,
want to mention
the Hong Kong thing, right? The Hong Kong thing, really important, right? It's really important to mention that because people will just think, especially in the Imperial Core, people will just be like, oh, well, whatever, you know, it's Hong Kong. It's not like America. No, like the Hong Kong police, like the incredibly brutal, like absolutely beat the shit out of protesters, killed protesters, and they would like arrest people, arrest these young people, and the protesters had to get in the habit of saying, I don't want to kill myself when they were getting arrested, like on camera. I don't want to kill myself. I don't want to kill myself. I'm never going to do it, because they were killing them in prison and then saying that they'd kill themselves and stuff. So that's the kind of like, you know, like non-violent ways in the face of something incredibly brutal, like still very, very effective.
Yeah.
Good point. I
Love you, babe. I'm sorry. I'm sorry about your ditzy brain.
I can't help. I'm getting help soon.
I want to mention that
everybody drink. Muel forgot something.
I want to mention that because Anansi's been talking about, you know, generally talking about, you know, anonymity, blending in, so on and so forth. Now's a great time to reiterate that you should wear a fucking mask because it's coronavirus, but also it's an extraordinarily convenient reason to cover your face. So when I see anyone at a protest not wearing a fucking mask, what is wrong with you? Wear a fucking mask.
No face, no case is a double entendre.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the thing.
True,
just it's all the stuff about just like not getting made, you know,
and again, I saw like, so I'm sorry. Go ahead, please. Go ahead.
I was gonna say there's just so many like easy things you can do that you know that like anyone can go grab a mask, get like a generic hoodie or whatever like that. Maybe, you know, like you can put like duct tape over any logos you got or anything like that, but it's extremely easy, so there's no excuse not to be doing that stuff.
Right. And that's why, like, when I was at those BLM protests, and I remember I was complaining early in this segment about like the Rambos or whatever, there are people that like during the coronavirus, they would not wear a mask, and they're like yelling and making a scene at these protests, and it's just like it's a perfect opportunity to cover your face, and there's this like machismo that I notice like time and time again, that dudes seem to feel like they're like pussies or something if they cover their face. Fucking cover your face. One, pandemic. As an epidemiologist, I'm gonna say this: cover your fucking face. Masks work. Wear a fucking mask. Oh my god. And over your nose, bitch. Fucking over your nose. What's wrong with you? And two, especially at a protest, like, come on, it's convenient. It fits. It doesn't make you look suspicious. It makes you look very, very, very regular, very normal. So take advantage of this. Sorry, go ahead.
And the when there was like a kind of BLM solidarity, it was like a big march over here, and it was actually during one of our lockdown. I think it was like the first lockdown period, and so there was a lot of people like you know, there was all these like right-wing pundits being like, what are they gonna do? Are they gonna break lockdown to support their precious Black Lives Matter? They're gonna spread coronavirus everywhere, you know, like, what are the liberals gonna do? Whatever. And it was actually chill. Like, everyone wore a mask, and there was like no transmission whatsoever between everyone. It was totally fine. People wore masks and gloves, and yeah, it was chill. And then there's like, you know, these other like, you know, like anti-vax rallies where they didn't wear masks, and then, you know, there's like lots of community transmission and stuff. So it's like, it's very simple. It's very easy what you have to do.
Yeah, and something similar happened here where like when the pandemic started, there was like obviously there was like a lot of like a huge rise in like mutual aid and people doing all these different things to help each other, and part of that was like providing PPE and hand sanitizer and all that. It was sort of like connections that spawned from coronavirus actually ended up influencing what happened during the protests, because people then like shifted their goal from, oh, we're now we're doing COVID stuff and we're like helping with these protests, and it built into a larger mutual aid sort of network that was able to provide protesters with like protective gear and stuff like that, as well as like doing COVID and that kind of stuff. And that's part of what made the 2020 protests get so big and like last so long, is that these networks were like supply lines, and they were feeding the movement and giving it the ability to have like the kind of momentum where people in Portland could like protest and fight the police for 100 days straight. could like when
absolutely.
you'd have these
Fuck yeah.
nightly protests night after night in like multiple cities, and people were like just like in some places like they didn't stop until the end of the year. Like the uprising really didn't end. Like when I think of it historically, I cap it off like after the January 6th insurrection, because the uprising did not end in the summer. Like it continued throughout the whole year for a long time, and it just kind of died out in the media. People were still in the street, like with the huge things happening.
Yeah, I mean, shit always heats up a lot in the summer. Just people like feel more comfortable to get out and are much more willing to get out, and like it's sunny and whatever. But like, yeah, it's still going on the whole time. You're completely right.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing actually. Sorry, I had there was a segue there. But it's gone.
Tim's got ADHD now. I've given it to Tim.
Yeah,
Oh shit! It's spreading through the hosts. Oh god.
Oh, that's the new variant.
Yeah.